We need to talk about the 1-year anniversary, if we can call it that, since the racist terrorism in Charlottesville. This past weekend, neo-Nazis and white nationalists came to D.C. for their sequel called Unite the Right 2. And about 25 to 30 bigots came to D.C. And since then, there have been a lot of mocking conversations about how few racists showed up and how they were outnumbered by hundreds and hundreds of good woke progressives. And that's all well and good, and it's all accurate. But in the city of Washington, D.C., there is an important story we need to talk about involving D.C.'s metro rail system and its special treatment of the neo-Nazis who came to town. And to help us make sense of it, walk us through it, we have founder of WEAC Radio, Kymone Freeman. Thanks so much for joining us, Kymone.
Co-founder. Shout out to Alex Lawson, and happy birthday to Social Security.
All right. So, Kymone, can you just walk us through what happened with the D.C. Metro Rail and the people who came for the Unite the Right rally?
Well, basically, Washington Metro Area Transit Authority has failed to realize that their preferential treatment in providing a private car, a white-only car, for the alt-right, white nationalists, domestic terrorists, constitutes their support for the actual tenements of white supremacy. Mm-hmm. You know, this preferential treatment, this new precedence that was set. Imagine, if you will, Black Lives Matter protesters who are not directly responsible for anyone's death, as are the people who were responsible for that young girl's death in Charlottesville. Imagine, if you will, if they were recipients of police protection at this scale and received a private train in Boston to commemorate the death of a police officer. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what happened in the nation's capital this past week. And we're supposed to just get over it. We're supposed to just allow this to go into the news cycle. We're supposed to just lay back and say, well, it was in the best interest of safety. No, this was not about safety. It was about the preferential treatment to a hate group who are responsible for a girl's death. They lied about it because there were reports denying that they were going to do this, but in fact they did. And this is totally unacceptable. And if I may, I just want to say that after these initial reports to the contrary, and that they did provide white nationalists with private trains, the American Transit Union Local 689 is asking the public to join them in doing something. Our motto here at WEAC Radio by contacting Northern Virginia Transit at 703-524-3322, Northern Virginia Transit at 703-524-3322. Our mayor here in Washington, D.C., Mayor Muriel Bowser, at 202-727-2643, 202-727-2643. And also Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, who's up for re-election, mind you, against the progressive Ben Jealous, who is a friend of WEAC Radio. Shout out to Ben Jealous. Larry Hogan's office is 410-974-3901, 410-974-3901, to order that the Washington Metro Area Transit Authority Board fired the general manager who lied to the citizens of the nation's capital, who deceived the citizens of the nation's capital, who used public funds of the citizens of the nation's capital to provide preferential treatment and support the tenets of white supremacy for a white nationalist group here in Washington, D.C.
You know, I want to make sure that we give special credit to ATULocal 689, the union, for actually calling this to everybody's attention. I felt that they were one of the most important voices in this entire conversation, because when this idea of giving a private metro rail car to the white nationalists was even proposed as a brainstorm idea, it was the union, it was ATULocal 689 that was vocal in their adamant opposition to the idea. They publicized that. They raised their opposition to make it very clear whose side they were on. And like you're saying, it was because, and you know, that pressure led this communication about, oh, we're not going to do that. And then we find out from the union that no, they actually did do it. And so I just want to make sure that we're giving that shout out to the union because they played such an important role in keeping the truth to what the Metro actually did with providing a special car.
Well, it's been said that the truth is so precious it must be guarded by lies. I don't know who said that. I heard that from the mouth of Benjamin O. Davis Jr., the credited general of the Tuskegee Airmen, who was a friend of mine, by the way. I don't agree with him on that issue, but that's what happened here because the general manager of Metro is claiming that they lied in service to white supremacy, to protect the white supremacists, and that it was an interest of security.
Right.
So we must lie to the taxpayers who's footing this bill to protect it. I mean, the spectacle of the immense amount of time, taxpayer money, and police protection that these white supremacists received, and at the same time where counter-protesters and Black Lives Matter protesters and people who are protesting anything against the establishment are attacked by police. Look at what happened in Standing Rock in terms of attack, and look what happened in Nationals Capital in terms of protection. That has to be brought to bear, and I think that supporting or defending white supremacists should be unacceptable. And I think that someone needs to be held accountable, and I think it needs to start with a general manager who needs to either resign or be fired.
Absolutely. And when I tried to do a quick survey of, okay, what have the police done for previous movements that have come to D.C., the largest minority-led movements that have ever come to D.C., and I have yet to find the level of police protection for any of those movements, whether that be for the Million Man March, whether that be for any of the Black Lives Matter marches that have happened in the district, for any of the immigrants' rights marches and rallies that have ever come to the district. I have not seen any reports of the police or the Metro going to special lengths to accommodate or to protect the physical bodies of those protesters.
Well, I myself am one of the few surviving indigenous natives of Washington, D.C., native Washingtonian. And you can imagine how many rallies and protests I've seen in the nation's capital over that time. So I must say that Chief Newsom, who was the current chief of police here in Washington, D.C., to his credit, D.C. handles protests better than most police departments around the country. With having said that, there's a problem with the gun unit here, the jump outs here, violating people's civil rights each and every day. Having said that, we need to acknowledge that one of the former chief police here, who was appointed by former President Barack Obama to head his police task force union when he was trying to address the onslaught of police shootings of people of color. Chief Ramsey, former Chief Ramsey, he was removed from his post because one of his officers punched a protester, a girl, actually. And if memory serves me correctly, a white girl in the face for protesting. And so there are problems that still persist, but the spectacle of the amount of protection versus the amount of attacks that counter-protesters receive. And this is not just on the police. The 6 corporations that control most of what we see here and read in this country, you know who they are. If you don't, you should look them up. But MSNBC, I know for a fact, as probably most of the liberal media, sides with the police officer, just like Fox News. They didn't speak to any counter-protesters during the entire coverage. We saw BBC and other international outlets giving coverage, but not the American media. And just like we saw in Portland a few weeks ago, the police are sided. And what needs to be addressed is the elephant in the room is that it's a 2006 FBI report, and that's not the WEAC radio report. It's not the Black Agenda report. It's not even the 0 Hour report or liberal media report. It's the FBI report, no friends of ours, who says that 2006 they acknowledge that all levels of law enforcement has been infiltrated, quote unquote, by white supremacists, and they are codenamed ghost dogs. And that has not been acknowledged, and that's why we see a one-sided support for law enforcement in terms of these matters.
So I think the picture that you're painting is that it's not just that Metro gave special accommodation to to these white nationalists who showed up, that we actually have a much larger problem.
Institutional racism.
Of institutional racism accommodating.
Of course.
I mean, these views that we're all apparently finding repugnant, but we keep finding new comfort zones for them.
Yes, yes. I mean, white supremacy permeates every aspect of our society, and it's been there for 500 years as a dominant doctrine on the globe. So sometimes it's difficult to even recognize it. I like to paint the picture. Please go turn your attention to Black Klansman by Spike Lee. Turn your attention to Boots Riley. Shout out to Boots Riley, and Sorry to Bother You and his depiction of capitalism. But if you see a film and it has an all Latino cast, then that's a Latino film for Latino audiences. If you see a film that has Indian producers, an independent cast, it's an Indian film for Indian audiences. But if you see a white film with all white producers, it's not a white film. Right. It's a movie for everyone.
Right.
That's white supremacy.
Yeah. So, Kymone, in the time that we have left, I just wanted to ask you to make two plugs. One was for the phone numbers that you mentioned before. And then also, I know that later this month you have a special announcement to make.
Yes, I'm a double threat. You know, I'm not just an activist. I'm also an artist, an award-winning artist or award-winning activist. I had to acknowledge that, pat myself on the back, because I have two choices. You know, to either be depressed or be mad, and I prefer to be mad. Angry Black Man in Therapy. So, and part of my therapy is my artwork, and I have a play called The Night Michael Jackson Died. That's at SOBs in New York. So all our free speech TV listeners, check us out on August 28th at SOBs, showtime 9 o'clock. 5 actors and a DJ, SOBs.com, August 28th. And to give that information out again on what you can do to address what's happening in your nation's capital. This is not a local issue. This is a national issue. It's an institutional issue. And I beg all those of goodwill to call Northern Virginia Transit, 703-524-3322. Northern Virginia Transit at 703-524-3322. Mayor Bowser, who just hired one of our interns here at WEAC Radio 2 weeks ago. So now I have a young man half my age making more money than me. Shout out to Mayor Bowser. Thank you very much. At 202-727-2643, 202-727-2643. And finally, Larry Hogan of Maryland, who is running against our friend Ben Jealous in November. Check him out at 410-974-3901. 410-974-3901. Please call these people and urge that Washington Metro Area Transit Authority Board fires the general manager immediately, and also ask the question, who paid for this?
All right. Important questions, important call for action. Again, thank you and shout out to ATULocal 689 for rallying together this call of action. You've been listening to Kymone Freeman, co-founder of WEAC Radio, and I am your guest host for the 0 Hour.
Dr. America!